What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to JG's Lounge. I'm getting better at these like intro buttons here. I'm not as gapped out anymore, so that feels good. Welcome back to another episode of Singed Eye Sockets with the same host as usual, which is nice because occasionally we got one of you guys missing, but it's nice when all three of us can come together. Evolution, man, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I've had a chance to get some rest and relaxation, so I'll probably be up pretty late tonight. So I'm ready to go.
Right on. Sean, he was kind of filling us in on some events that have been going on lately, man. Why don't you kind of do a little get it out of your system before we get into it?
Phil, where would you like me to start in this dystopian, apocalyptic, Orwellian nightmare that we're living in? Do you want to start with the fraudulent elections, or do you want to start with the 500 moons that we've got and signs in the heavens and wars and everything else and all of this stuff that's going? And it all happens to be going on in October. Sorry, I'm so out of my mind with everything. And then I'm getting notifications on my phone I grew up in Deer Creek, Indiana, which all of a sudden is a hotbed of UFO activity because there was an alien swarm apparently a couple nights ago where just scads of UFOs floating around the area. And it's always been weird for the UFO shit down there. Don't get me wrong. I saw plenty of stuff growing up, but I mean, it was just like cameras panning across the sky and they're just everywhere. And you're it's either Project Bluebeam or everybody is coming to the arena for, the best seats for all the shit that's about to go down. Right. Not to mention the fact that James Webb Telescope apparently has seen a Borg type ship. All right, if you know anything about Star Trek, a Borg type ship hurtling towards the planet. All right, there's that, or the armada that it has also seen of aliens. And since the government's already admitted, oh yeah, UFOs exist, what kind of fuckery? Volcanoes in California is finally sliding off into the ocean. Finally, we were waiting. Now it's happening. I mean, where do you want to start? I'm just waiting for an abyss to crack open and all of a sudden just demons and shit flying out, because then I could look at it with some warmth in my heart going, okay, finally this thing it's happening as it's supposed to.
It's finally here. Since they released that whole thing, I think it's them releasing that aliens were real didn't do anything. I mean, nope. If a UFO popped up in front of me, I'd still be terrified.
Yeah.
My biggest belief, though, is that I feel like if they wanted to take over, they already would have. I mean, I could see them annihilating the planet just to get rid of it. But I feel like if they wanted to just get rid of the human race, we already would have been done.
They're probably like, why do we even want to try? They're doing it themselves, right?
Oh, dude, I guarantee you, and I've heard this from other comics, but I've said this for years too, that if spaceships fly by and they lock their doors, all right, we are the Detroit of the solar system. They want to make sure that GPS is working because we are the bad neighborhood.
Yeah,
right?
We're the planet that does the drive-bys.
It's fucking seriously, dude. But there is a theory. There is a theory that there is a lot of calamity and catastrophe that's a coming, and these ships that are coming down to take away, like, and this is just a theory that I've heard, but coming to take away the well-meaning folks of the world and get us away from the reptilians, everything else. And I'm talking just like this kind of an amalgamation of a lot of different theories, but some are saying like that was what, was mistakenly called the rapture. Like they knew this was going to happen. And the reason every fucking thing is happening now. Biolabs catching on fire, trains derailing in Egypt, wars over in Lebanon, bombs being dropped between Israel, Iran, and Iraq, and everybody else. And that's all happening right fucking now. And a third assassination attempt on President Trump, just so everybody knows, to catch you up on the tote board. It's just like it's like that meme that you see with the balding guy standing in front of that board that has all the things listed on it, and he was like, "Who had alien armada headed towards the Earth in October? Who had it?" I mean, what
I just thought of was, the movies where like the planets are done and like all the rich and wealthy are going to this pod to escape.
Yes.
I feel, which I know I've seen in more than one movie. I feel like that's wouldn't happen. I think, like you said, aliens would just come and get them and take them. Like just over time, like we wouldn't even know that there was a thing. They would already just be getting taken.
Right, but it would be the rich or the wealthy, or would it be like the meek who are like the decent people? I mean, I don't know, dude. I don't know anymore. I'm so blown away by everything just all happening. And it's weird. I have to ask you guys. I know we are going far afield from the topic.
You're good. But we're at 7 minutes. We'll ride this till 10 minutes, and then we're just gonna cut it off. Okay.
Okay. But do you feel like so many people I have heard, they just feel like they're existing right now because everybody feels like something's coming. There's like a kind of a depression going, and I'm not talking just like the emotional depression, like literally we are in what's called a silent depression, like our depression of the 1920s and 30s. We're going through it again, but we are actually on average, we hold less wealth than our ancestors did during that time. It is a nightmare as far as the economy is going.
Comparison.
Yeah, dude, back then the average salary, if it was compared to today, they were about 89 to 98,000 per year, respectively. We are at 50 on average.
And they said for a lower middle class family to survive today, on average, should make about 170K. And I don't know anybody that makes that much.
Wow.
Please, with a PUH, right. Dude. Like, I'm sorry, man, but we are in a nightmare landscape with all this stuff going on. But it just feels like, I don't know. I wake up and it's like I'm just flowing through everything, and I'm doing all kinds of stuff, man. I'm on shows. I'm traveling around the country. I'm doing all this stuff, but it doesn't feel like anything's real anymore. There's no anchor to reality. We're just wake up. Stuff happens, we go to bed, and it's just like we're waiting for the matrix to crack open. I don't know, man. Like, how have you guys been feeling?
Go ahead, Evolution.
When you state it like that, it's definitely a pattern that's going on. And there's days that I'm like, well, let me go out and do something, get out the house, do something, and then I'm like, you know what? I'll just go back home.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's really the excitement that I would look for on before when I was younger. I'm like, I've been there and done that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Unless it's something way different, like, visiting another country or something. It's like, how many times can you go to an amusement park, right? And see the same stuff and stay in line and deal with the complaints of the heat and the waiting, and you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I get it. I definitely understand what you're saying. And so I'm kind of, it's not a pause, but it's a place where I'm like, when's the new stuff going to occur, right?
Right. I think everything's bleeding together, like days, weeks. I feel like it just bleeds together anymore. Like hours of the day, I feel like you lose track of it at times, because of how repetitive it is almost. And it's not even like highs and lows each day. It's just more of like a consistent repetitiveness. And that's the best way I can explain it. And it does.
Yeah.
It feels like you're almost on a track, and you have no control where it's going. It's just going, you know.
Yeah, and we just keep getting shit pitched at us like it's just normal. It's just like however many months ago they came out with we have this new thing called Cisco-Depidelia isms where you just start seeing demon faces, folks. No. It's a thing. It's a thing now.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think at large the population is starting to wake up, but at the same time, it's just like you're just going to just do these. You're just putting shit out there. Yeah, there's aliens. You're going to start seeing demons. Second moon, like what the like? This is like something out of a fucking movie.
Mm-hmm.
We are living in a movie.
Yep.
And how we are not collectively just looking around at everybody going, what the fuck? And yet somehow the Kardashians are still in the news. What are we even doing, man?
All right. Okay. All right. Let's get on topic. Okay. Come on. I wanted to. Yeah, I did. Well, you clearly wanted to discuss it. So. I was just trying to be a friend and letting you vent. So everybody that's tuned in, that is not the topic of today's show. Just so everybody's aware.
But I have a feeling there will be more to follow in the future. So
probably.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. That's actually just a teaser to the next Blurred Lines episode right there.
Oh God, yeah.
Hopefully, Sean, you won't be alone on that one. Actually, me and him were talking earlier about doing one this week with you since he's on vacation and I ain't working. So
sweet.
I'll be down.
So, how familiar are you guys with Amish way of life?
They are like more natural, or they do everything themselves pretty much, and kind of standoffish to the public, unless they have to, come to the city for something or whatever. But for the most part, they exist in their own setup.
Yeah. Sean's either laughing because that was a very basic response.
No,
that was very generic.
That
was a very generic response.
Unlock the memory. Well, okay. First of all, I'm in the thick of Amish country around here, and I am well acquainted with like the surface level stuff, and then the behind the scenes crap that as I was in EMS and things. But I just remember when I was a younger guy and had less control over my emotions, I was in a Payless shoe store, right?
Yeah.
And these Amish folks came in and they were shoe shopping with us. And I'm over, and I was just irritated all of a sudden, because they get all they don't have to pay taxes and all this other crap. And I pulled some shoes off, and it just, I don't know, but I looked over at him and I just yelled across the store, "You can't have it both ways." Like a psycho.
Oh my.
To kind of add evolution a little bit, what I have read about the Amish way of life is they're more simplest, hardworking, get you into heaven kind of vibe. Like you're definitely supposed to be almost kind of shameful. Like the way they dress and stuff is almost meant to separate them from the modern world. And that's kind of the base gist of the Amish. And obviously it kind of breaks into like Mennonites and Anabaptists. And there's other, yeah.
Well, and there's a lot of other stuff too, guys. Like you're looking at, like, even their homes are plain white. There's a reason, like their hats are black and they only have the beards, and it's clean shaven. It's all very much rife with symbolism and all of that stuff. And they have like rules where they can separate things out, where it's like, okay, our home and everything else is pure, but our barn, that's different. They can have electricity in their barns because their barns are where, they do their work, they're a lot of them are plumbers, carpenters, they do all kinds of stuff. Right. And I know from personal experience, this isn't just conjecture, that in their barns, that whole Amish mafia thing where, they are heavy into drugs, they find massive porn stashes out in their barns, all of that stuff. 100% true.
I believe it. I mean, I remember watching that show. It was years after it was aired, but I remember watching it, and I don't know who it was, but I've had several people tell me that that's all real stuff that actually does happen.
Yeah, they're interesting, and but the thing that makes the Amish really insufferable in my eyes is their women are impossibly hot. And when you're a young man, and it's like, say you love taco salads, and then somebody brings to you in front of your face the most beautiful taco salad you've ever seen in your life, and you're like, I want to eat that fucking taco salad. And they're like, oh no, this taco salad belongs to God.
Okay, that's a good way to explain that, I guess. All right, so this is Edward Gingerich or Gingerich. I'm not sure. He's wearing a white hat, Sean. I'm not sure why. I didn't know that about the hats.
That's
But he was
white hat. That's different.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was born in 1966 in Norwich, Ontario, Canada. He was born to parents Danny and Mary Gingerich, and he grew up known as sort of a rowdy kid, which is actually kind of shunned upon from the adults. You know, he liked to just brace yourself. He liked to have fun as a kid, which is mind-boggling why a kid would want to have fun. But that's actually kind of why the community sort of took that aspect with him. They were kind of offset by him growing up because of how rowdy he was, and even the teachers would kind of complain to his parents about how he acted. So in 1983, his parents decided to pack up and leave with their 8 children. They have 8 sons and daughters, from Canada to Crawford County, Pennsylvania, due to dairy restrictions in Canada. So they moved it.
They were lactose intolerant.
No, I don't think that they were lactose intolerant, but I'm not sure what the restrictions were either. But by June of 1985, the settlement had grown to 13 families in a population of 93. Ed's father had built a diesel-powered sawmill, and Ed was eager to learn the mechanics. One big thing about the Amish are they try to stay away from, like Sean said, electricity technology. So they'll do like bottled gas and diesel-fueled machinery to run their stuff. I don't know where the limitation is on how they determine those things, but I did kind of learn that. So Ed starts working at the sawmill, which this is kind of how they start making their money. You know, they got their crops and they're farming, but they're also building woodwork and selling that to the community. They're taking the shavings and selling them for horse feed, bedding and stuff like that. So they're making money off of the sawmill. Ed befriends a local Englishman, which is also shunned upon in the Amish community. A big thing for them is to separate themselves. You can sell to them, but don't befriend them. That's kind of a something you just don't do. And the Amish also refer to most Americans as Englishmen. I don't know, again, why they do that. Have you ever heard of that phrase from the Amish, Sean?
Oh yeah. We are sinners. We are oh god, what is the word? It's oh my god. What is the word in Christian circles refers to like the outside world? There's a term for it. My brain. I'm sorry. We've been
secular. Anything that's
secular. That's it. Secular.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's there's terminology that they use for us. The English is the thing is they're not. Look, man, they're not all bad folks, but they are very cultish. They are very, standoffish. There, if you walk into like a dressed like I am right now, and I walked into a group of Amish folks, it's not like they'd hiss at me. But, it's like that moment you walk into the saloon you're not supposed to be in, and the music stops, and, every dark hat would turn and look at you like, where are thou supposed to be going, Englishman? Like, it's very much like that. And they're folks, unless it's Rumspringer, their folks do not intermingle with our folks. And that when I tell you, like, I had a locker mate, her name was Gina, and they weren't full Amish, they were just German Baptist, but still, same rules apply. There was no, like, you just didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, so during his time working at the sawmill, he makes friends with this Richard Zimmerman. He's just one of the farmers that are kind of near the property, and they're selling to him. And Ed even gets to a point where he starts faking going to church, faking being sick so he can avoid going to church, so he can go hang out on the Zimmerman's property. So him and Dick Zimmerman's over there hanging out, having a root beer and watching TV and doing all those sinful things that they're not supposed to be doing while his community's in church. And they're catching on to it. His community's aware that he's faking. They're not they're not getting too aggressive with him because he's actually doing really good in the sawmill. He's bringing in a lot of money. He's selling the product, but there he is selling. He's hanging out with them, so he's already kind of getting looked at like, "Hey, man, you need to watch yourself." He confides in Richard over time that he doesn't really understand the Amish life. He doesn't understand why they want to do things a hard way. He even mentions leaving the Amish faith. In fall of 1985, Ed meets Katie Shetler. It says meets, but I'm gonna guess they kind of knew each other, but they basically formally became a couple at this time. And she's 21. She's niece of the bishop. Bishop is kind of the head elder of the congregation. At least that's kind of how I read this during the research. So he's the uncle of Katie. They start dating in the fall of 85, and they're on and off for about a year, and they start feeling pressure from the community. Katie's getting older. She's one of the oldest siblings out of 15, while the rest of them are getting married and having kids. She's getting old. I mean, man, she's about to retire and die off, man. She's 21. I don't know how many more years she has. She should already have 7 children.
Yeah, they're not shy about kicking out the brood.
Right. No. Well, and that's how do you think they build the community? Each one of them are knocking out 10 to 15 kids each. That is true, though. That is true. In the fact that she was starting to kind of feel pressure because she was the eldest, and the rest of the siblings are getting married and starting to have kids. Ed, on the other hand, he's kind of in this torn idea of, hey, I want to leave the congregation, but I like Katie. I don't know that I want to marry her, but I'm also getting pressure that I need to get married and I need to settle down. And so he decides to go that route, and him and Katie get married December 2nd, 1986. Are we pretty much caught up at the moment?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. I got 6 pages to go through. So if there's something that you guys want to point out, just stop me. If I got something I want to talk about more, I'll stop. So, in March of 87, Ed's family constructed a 1-story house for Katie and Ed temporarily. September 20th, 1987, Katie gives birth to their first child, Danny, named after his dad. Ed didn't care for being a father and wouldn't spend very long, or he'd start spending longer hours at the mill and coming home late, sometimes almost midnight at night. And Katie's starting to kind of feel slightly worried about Ed because of how distant he's becoming. But another thing in the Amish community is you're not allowed to really question your husband. Like it's actually kind of shunned upon to even really question your spouse. So she's got that in her mind. So she's not really questioning him at first, but things continue to kind of spiral out here. By the summer of 88, Ed built a machine shop next to the sawmill. He's very technical savvy, very into electronics and mechanics. And so he built this while maintaining the rules, which had a weird name. It was like Ongnak, or I don't even know what it's called, but they have like a set of rules that they have to adhere to. And as long as he abides by those rules, he can modernize to an extent, So he's got this mechanical parts, he's got this machine shop where you can get mechanical parts, and he's buying motors to start fixing them up, which is really starting to kind of Katie and the bishop are now like really looking at him like, he's starting to dabble in some bad, stuff here, along with escaping church to go hang out with the Englishmen and more stuff outside the community. In August of 88, Katie talks to parents about Ed's conditions, about him being, depressed and starting to lose weight. He starts talking about having dizzy spells. So she talks to the parents after he tells her not to. So this is one thing that she wasn't supposed to do. And they recommended that they go see a medical doctor. And Katie is very against this. I mean, the going to see, I don't know, they had like people that they could go to that were Amish or like affiliated with the community that didn't practice, medical stuff like we do, and you're not supposed to do it. So she's against it. She's like, no, he can't. So she makes an appointment for him to go see Dr. Merritt Terrell, who was a drugless doctor. This is actually quite hilarious. They go to his office, which is a 1-story house. The hallway is basically the reception desk. Ed gets taken to a back room with Dr. Terrell, who sits him on a bench and has him write on paper. He then takes this paper and runs it through a machine, which determines what his issues are. What's going on with him,
Okay.
which is, absolutely hysterical that anybody would think that this would work. So he runs the paper through a machine and goes, oh, hey, you need a good toe pulling. We're going to give you a foot rub, pull your toes, get you a bottle of blackstrap molasses and send you on your way. So,
Shut the
yes, let's stop here for a second. What you got?
Oh, go ahead, Sean. I'm gonna cap it off.
No, it's just the amount of quackery that this Amish doc is shunning, the English and their medicine. But here, I'm going to run your cursive through a machine that's going to read it, and it's like, oh, well, by the way you dot your I's, you've got gonorrhea. Wait, what?
That's basically what his method of figuring out what their issues were was.
Yeah, and phrenology used to be a thing. By the bumps on your head, I can tell that you got blood goblins.
Here, there is one thing, and before I let you go, they are only raised to learn up to the 8th grade. So by the time they're 14, they're no longer in school. And that's just 8th grade in the Amish school. That's not, that's at the lower end of our middle school level of, knowledge. And that's what they're released into the world with.
Jeez.
Yeah, they're breeding generation after generation of nerd-ners and sending them out into the world. They're great at woodwork and everything else, but do you remember what dumbasses we were when we were in 8th grade? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. What you got, Evolution?
As Sean was talking about the quacks, I was thinking about an actual situation that I dealt with. It was a company doctor who prescribed Advil for everything. It didn't matter what was going on. They would prescribe Advil and send you back to work. I thought that was extreme, but this machine that reads penmanship is quite a few steps further extreme than that.
Yes.
I just think that's absolutely ridiculous, man.
Well, evolution. I'm sorry to interrupt, but the machine didn't have a quota from the bosses on high for insurance costs to be kept down. Oh, you got your leg chopped off? Here's some Advil. I really think I need to go to the yard. No, I think you need Advil. I'm the doctor.
He's back there. He's pushing the paper through the machine, and he kind of pops behind him. She's like, beep, boop, beep, 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 beep.
Oh, man. Yeah, that is.
Oh, look here, man. This says you need a good toe pulling right here.
Everything's a toe pulling.
That is a level of genius that I have yet to experience.
Well, have you guys ever heard the term blowing smoke up your ass?
Yeah.
Do you know where that's from?
No. I'm guessing that was something they actually did.
Yes, it is. It again. There's a whole branch of antique collection where it's like quackery and stuff like that. Where there was one where you would have a bellows, and you would pump cigarette or cigar smoke through the bellows through a tube into people's ass. Like you would literally blow smoke into their ass, and it was thought that the doing this cured a whole host of things. But it was complete bullshit, and that's where the term blowing smoke up somebody's ass originated.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah.
I did look up. So blackstrap molasses is used for things like PMS, anxiety. It's also used for migraines. It's more for like it's more for physical things than anything. But is it actually a good remedy? No, it's not.
Have some pancakes.
It's very high in calcium, potassium, and iron. While you guys are cracking up. So it is actually good for kind of leveling out some of your, like if you were to go get lab work done and your iron levels were off and some of the others, they would prescribe. I mean, technically this is something they could prescribe. It is good for you. Basically it's quadrupled. It's like quadruple boiled sugar, basically.
There's so many things that are good that come from nature that help. Like, what is it? Mullein?
Yes.
Yeah, like mullein. It's a plant you can just pull off the side of the road. My wife made a tincture out of it and made tea out of it. And last time we had respiratory issues, we had mullein tea and we felt better. Like there's a lot of wisdom that's out there that we can sit here and laugh at, but like legit stuff like that does help.
Yeah. It also helps with paranoid schizophrenia, apparently. Just kidding. I'm just joking. This guy just ends up becoming that. So as we get going here, over the next several months, he has a few follow-up appointments with Dr. Terrell, and they don't really notice much of a difference, which I'm shocked. Apparently he's not drinking enough of that molasses. Good old stiff feet Ed over there. March 21st of 1989, Katie gives birth to their second boy, Enon. Ed didn't care at all. The community talks about how he just cared less and less as he had children, became more and more depressed and spending more time in the shops. December 3rd, 1989, the sawmill burns down, which gives Ed a sense of purpose, and he partners with the bishop and wants to redesign and rebuild the sawmill. He's got all these modern ideas, which the bishop did question, but he also knows that Ed's really good at it. So he's like, I'll allow you to do it as long as you only use the Amish workers, and you can't make it too modern. Make sure you're following those rules. So he does. During the planning of the mill, Katie gets pregnant again and gives birth of March 13th, 1990 to a little girl, Mary, named
Apparently
after
he was
Ed's
spending
mom.
some time with her.
Yeah, but after this, their sex life pretty much goes out the window because he's too scared of having more kids. He doesn't like being a father. He doesn't, he refuses to really spend time with them. He's never home, and when he is, he's sleeping. So in April of 1990, they begin construction. Ed designs a diesel-powered conveyor belt to deliver logs through a saw blade and automatically separates the dust, which impresses the community and local Englishmen. Ed and Katie's problems continue to grow. He's staying out late. He's having conversations with her about modernizing and leaving the Amish community. And again, she's not really saying anything too much because she's not supposed to. She's got to kind of keep her mouth shut. And that community, in a modern day, I think we would send them to see a psych or a therapist, something that you should do. But she's kind of avoiding this because she's worried about getting in trouble, basically. So August of 1990, evangelist David Lindsay visits the sawmill, and he's very impressed. He gets a tour from Ed, and before he leaves, he asks Ed if he can return to discuss the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, which Ed agrees. Several days later, David returns with his Bible, and Ed sits in his car while they discuss the Christian faith, which leaves Ed very confused. He's all about The evangelist is all about a loving God. And when in the Amish community, it's almost, hard work, dedication, separate. Everybody else is evil. Very stern belief compared to this guy over here, who's basically thinks his purpose is to help those in what he calls the bishop's cult to escape and find Jesus. So him and Ed start kind of making this a regular thing, and this does not help Ed at all. Over the next year, Ed splits time between the sawmill and the machine shop on a regular basis. September 1991, Ed's father starts building a home for Ed and Katie. Ed does not help, which really upsets the community greatly because this is unheard of. They all always help build their own homes. Let's see here. House was completed by November. Over the next few months, Ed's health spirals downwards. He starts having dizzy spells, itchy skin, earaches, back pain, rarely eating. March 17th of 1992, it's Katie's birthday, but Ed spends the whole day in the machine shop working on a diesel engine, and he's using a chemical solvent called gunk. The can has a warning label saying that it needs to be significantly diluted, but he did not do. And he literally spends the whole day till about 4 o'clock with the door shut in the shop, working on this engine with this chemical solvents. I kind of put a little bit of emphasis on here because I think the ignorance of this could play a lot into some of the conditions as well. Anybody who knows anything about anything that's been concentrated, make sure you're diluting your stuff, especially when it comes to chemicals. He comes home, goes straight to bed. He complains to Katie about having his brain feeling like it's on fire and his hands are swollen. He wakes up the next morning and grabs a cup of coffee, complains about having a headache, and he goes right back to the shop and spends another 7 hours working on the engine. At this point, he has a pounding pain between his eyes, and he feels like his limbs aren't receiving blood. Around dinner time, David shows up to purchase a saw blade. Ed comes downstairs, and they both leave Ed and Katie's home. Ed took David to see the motor that he's been working on, and immediately the odor just strikes David, and he gives Ed a hard time about the improper ventilation. And they're in the shop for a few hours before David leaves. Ed returns home after the kids are in bed. Katie asks what's wrong. Ed says he's dizzy and he's going to go to bed. I want to take a little pause here. Are you guys pretty caught up on where we're at so far?
Mm-hmm.
There's about a page and a half in here. So if there's any questions, like I said, feel free. And anybody who is watching, throw some comments in here. If you got questions, please throw them in. We'll answer them. If I'm not looking, these guys can see them as well. So the next morning, Ed wakes up and shakes Katie, saying that he just had a vision, and he starts rambling about trying to kill an older leader, but not being able to conquer him. She asks what leader, and he says Bishop Shetler, which is her uncle. The devil wants my soul and is fighting Jesus for it. So here's the point where things are crossing the line, and she wants to start, doing something about it. Katie schedules an immediate appointment to go see old Dr. Topol that afternoon. He determines off of his penmanship that he just needs a good shoulder rub, a right foot manipulation, and another jar of blackstrap molasses, and sends him on his way.
He's Dr. Nick from The Simpsons. What the hell? I get that we have 8th grade educations and things. Maybe that's why he couldn't read the back of the bottle on the gunk where it said, this is a concentrate, must dilute. He probably saw it, you know what? Fuck it. Yeah. I'm just going to use it. He wasn't able to read it. But this stuff with the doc, with the giving the strap and the toe pulling and everything else, there is a thing called common sense, that something in their gut had to tell them, like a foot massage. And you know what I mean? You would think.
Yeah, you think.
All right, I'm sorry. This
you're good.
Bugging the shit out of me.
Yeah, no, he is. And actually, I think he's probably the one that I hate the most, only because I feel like anybody who is a doctor, a legit doctor, should have like seen the signs and been like, no, I'm not the right person for this. You need to take him to actual hospital. What you got,
Yeah,
Bruce? You got anything?
yeah, man. I'm thinking about all the symptoms that he's expressing to his wife, and she's not saying or doing anything about it. You know, complaining about pain in between the eyes and not feeling like blood is circulating to his limbs. That's some pretty severe type of stuff. So
Yeah.
him just wanting to go to bed, and he may not wake up. Depending
Yeah.
on how bad it is, but.
Yeah. Well, and you think about their education too, though. I mean, and they're still restricted from the modern world. So, how much do they actually know? Now, the doctor, on the other hand, should know enough, considering that he's got a degree.
I'm thinking not so much.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so that evening, after they get back home, Ed tells the congregation that he needs to leave the Amish community, and it was the only way for him to be saved. The bishop angrily asks why he wants to join soldiers of the devil, and Ed replies, "Why are my own people against me?" On March 23rd, 1992, Ed refuses to leave bed, spitting at the ceiling. Katie tells Ed to stop, but he refuses, mumbling phrases like, "What does it mean? What is it spelling? What is it saying to me?" Katie's very disturbed and summons the bishop. The bishop sends word to elders and Ed's family, who all awake or show up, and Ed's mom recommends to the doctor that they take him to go see a doctor. The bishop responds, "No way. He's possessed by the devil. We need to pray." So they get in a circle so that they can pray the demon out of good old Ed here. And around, let's see, Ed sits up and the prayer stops shortly after. They help him to his feet and they take him to a cot where he quickly falls asleep. After observing for several hours, Ed wakes up, falls to the floor, and begins to howl, crawling around on all fours. Now at this point, they decide, okay, we're going to take him to see a doctor.
Wait a minute. Hold up.
Good question.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me after everything that's happened, all he had to do was fall to his knees and howl, and now they were ready to take him to the doctor? I mean, all their faith and beliefs just went out the window. Okay, I think maybe he needs a doctor. Seriously?
Verily, but we cannot deal with werewolves, Grable. That's an Englishman problem.
Well, and as bad as what he does is, and I don't think that he should. I think that his punishment should have been more severe than it was. But as bad as it was, he gave them all the signs, and he requested the help, and they're clearly there. And instead, they turn the other cheek because their belief is like, no, can't do it. So I picked this topic specifically because of how torn he is between his buddy David and then Lindsay over here, and then his Amish community, and they're both pulling him in these different directions. He's more leaning towards this evangelistic Christian way of life, but he's scared because of what he's grown up in, and he's married now, he's got kids. So where else can he go besides downward spiral? If mentally he's just not, he already has issues. If he's got these underlying issues and they're not helping, this David Lindsay guy is just adding fuel to the fire because he's constantly telling him, you need to leave, you need to leave and confess it to your Lord and Savior, or you're going to hell, basically, is what he's telling him. And then you've got the Amish community saying, you should probably lay back on hanging out with these guys because look what's happening to you, basically. So it's just, he's got a whole lot happening that doesn't make sense. And go ahead, John.
I'm just going to toss a softball out there. All right. So yeah, he's being torn in multiple directions. He's getting confirmation bias from this Lindsay person that is basically telling him what he wants to hear. Like, he wants to go anyway. What I think is happening, I don't know what the denouement is here. Like, if he ends up murdering everybody in the community, whatever it is, but I have a feeling that something is going on with that machine shop and sawmill, and that he's getting exposed to a shitload of chemicals,
Yes.
and it is tearing his brain apart, and it is creating the palette of symptoms. That is my
100%.
guess.
100%. And actually, that's why I went into so much details on that one specific thing,
Mhm.
because what else was he using? You know, what else is he doing where he's not reading the instructions, or he's just,
Right.
whatever. But yeah, I think that has a huge part to do with all of this, because this is about the time where it really starts just plummeting.
Mhm.
All right. Let's see.
I will say he must be a very talented individual with a special set of skills, because he's doing all these things in the sawmill and the machine shop that are just really impressing everybody. So he has a talent,
Yeah.
but he also has a different thought process.
Mhm.
Saying it's like there's a better way of doing things, but he knows that the people in the Amish community aren't going to support that. So he's already dealing with some mental issues in the beginning, before all the chemical imbalance and all that other stuff. So
yeah, no, I agree. So Dr. Craig Caldwell, he's well known in the Amish community for treating some of those patients. He comes to their home while using the stethoscope. Ed rambles about the Bishop of Jesus. Katie hands the doctor a jar of molasses, asking if it would help. The doctor says no and gives Ed a tranquilizer, then leaves. Katie's like, what do you mean it won't work?
We've blessed
Dr.
these
Dr. Topol's lying?
These have always worked in the past. No, the fuck they haven't. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
I just gave your husband a very high dose of tranquilizer just to get him to go to sleep. That ain't doing shit.
Right. Jeez.
Okay.
All right, let's keep going here. So he leaves, and Ed goes to sleep. March 24th, 1992 starts the same as the day before, with Ed lying in the bed, spitting at the ceiling. Katie sends Ed's brother to call 911. Paramedics show up. Katie says he is having a nervous breakdown and to be careful. Ed smiles mockingly at Katie as he's being escorted out, which she walks up and punches him in the face, knocking his ass to the floor.
Whoa.
Yeah. So the paramedics had to help. Yes. Ed stands up and is
thou hast mocked my molasses for the last time.
This is signs of, obviously there's some sort of physical abuse happening here for her to just walk up and punch him in the face.
It makes no sense. I get it. She's frustrated. This has all been building up, but that is like a 10 to a 2 lady. Like he's obviously in distress, and he goes, hey, 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 and she just like squares
lays
up like Sugar Ray. You're killing me with this one, dude.
Yeah, that's great. It gets better. Let's keep going here. I still got three and a half pages to go. Unless you got something, Evolution. You got anything? You good?
Keep going.
Ed stands up and he's assisted onto a cot and strapped down. At the hospital, Ed initially seems sane, and the doctor's actually questioning Katie on how honest she's being about his symptoms. The doctor briefly leaves the room when Ed starts yelling at Katie, asking why she's trying to kill him. He then growls and insists that Katie is sleeping with his brother. Katie leaves the room to grab the doctor. As soon as they come back, Ed is lying back in the bed, spitting at the ceiling and talking to himself. Ed's admitted to the psych ward. March 26th, David makes a visit after hearing word that he was in the psych ward, and he blames the chemical solvent. He's like, I knew it. I knew something was up. 2 weeks later, Ed's released with medication and in follow-up appointments. By April 28th, Ed stops taking the prescriptions because he doesn't like the zombie feeling, and Katie agrees. She hates that they're using medicine in general, and she was totally for it. She's like, let's just stop taking the medicine. You'll be all right. Cheering him on. What a great wife.
After socking the crap out of
it. Within days, Ed starts sinking back into his depression. Katie finds him pulling his hair out on multiple occasions, saying it's on fire. Over the next few months, Ed talks of Satan's voice in his head telling him to kill her. He starts scratching his skin until it bleeds because of how itchy it is. In May, Ed tells Katie he wants to end the torture by shooting himself. Katie hides all of his guns in the buggy shed. That night, Ed smashes his fist through a window, climbs on the roof, and threatens to jump. Around this time, Katie's parents were pulling up the driveway, so Ed jumped off their 10-foot roof, landed on the ground, and ran off.
Wow.
Yeah, it's only 10 feet. Not a lot of damage happening there. So, yeah. About 100 yards later, down the road, Ed's father and brother pick him up because he fell asleep and brought him home. May 5th. Ed, actually, it took me hours to type this stuff up. I was kind of talking to Stan about it. But I was doing the best I could to write this timeline to where it had some comical bits in it. So May 5th, Ed wakes up. Oh, I already did that one. Ed's father and brother hog-tied him while sleeping and loaded him into a local Englishman's van to take him to another hospital. Upon arriving at Jones Memorial Health Center in Jamesport, New York, Ed's brother took him out of the van and set him on the ground while Katie and his dad went to get hospital staff, who demanded they untied him as soon as they saw him hogtied on the ground. Once inside, Ed drops on all fours and runs around the lobby, knocking over IV stands, tables, chairs, and pans of utensils, then falling fast asleep.
He was definitely getting his sleep.
You know what? I just think he needs a good toe pull, and that foot must be real stiff right now.
It's just reminding me, those the fainting goats, like when they get like too much stress on their system, they like fall over their legs or stuff. Right. And just in my head, I'm seeing him running around the waiting room, knocking shit over, and he just goes, nerd.
That's funny. Okay. Man. So they put him on a bed. They take him. He wakes up about an hour and a half later and wakes up in an examination room, and he starts ripping the medical appliances and cabinets off the walls. Staff force him onto the table where Ed is given 200 milligrams of Malaril. I'm not sure. Do you know what that is, Sean?
How's it spelled?
Mellaril.
Malaril.
No, that's probably, this is back in the 80s, so who knows?
Yes, unless it goes by another name now. I'm not familiar.
Ed says that the doctor asks what the problem is after he gives him the Mellaril. And Ed says he has a bad case of liver cancer, and he has seen a light so bright he thought he was in hell. Then he asks the doctor if he knows his brother. The doctor says no. And Ed says, when my brother slept with Katie, I saw an angel fly out of her mouth. The doctor, at a loss for words, sends Ed to a padded room.
That wasn't an angel.
The term they actually used was a little bit more vulgar than had sex with Katie. So I just made it had sex with Katie because the words he used were a little bit more rough. So, but that's basically what he said.
Hey, I just looked up Mellaril, and the word Pyridazine came up. I don't think I'm pronouncing it right.
Pyridazine?
Something like that, yeah.
Tranquilizer.
Oh, okay.
Tranquilizer?
That sounds right. Because one of the other doctors used tranquilizer on him, so that sounds right.
Okay.
All right. So the doctors, May 15th, Ed's released with more prescriptions. This time he stops taking them after 4 days with the support of his wife, Katie. Through the summer, Ed seems to be behaving. He's behaving himself. He's still obviously losing weight. His eyes are kind of sunken. He looks depressed. He makes it till about winter, being normal little Ed. By the time winter hits, Ed's family was cooped up inside, and his health was not doing well. He starts talking about seeing a giant bunny watching him through the windows. Ed's father insists. He see another English doctor. March 16th, 1993, which Ed agrees. And go ahead.
I picture him at the window going, no, you don't understand. Harvey's outside the window.
So I guess where I'm stuck at is as long as you're doing human things, it's treatable by natural molasses or whatever. Yes. But as soon as you start acting like an animal, you need to go see an English doctor. What the heck?
Basically, that's kind of the route it's going. Yeah. So March
got a cabinet. She opens up. It's all molasses. Hope they have the flu. Molasses.
Well, this brand works better
Not
for
the
this
COVID,
one, so I'm going to use the brand
molasses.
for this one.
Oh my goodness.
So March 17th, after Ed agrees, the family takes him to an Amish healer in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Immediately after entering this guy's home, Ed drops on all fours, saying, "Oh, this is nice," and he starts crawling around, admiring his floors. The doctor's son comes walking up the stairs from the basement, and Ed runs up to him and starts yelling at him, saying, "Do I look normal? Can you tell there is something wrong with me?" The doctor insists they leave, telling Katie he has a mental problem and needs to go see a hospital for fear of suicide. On the ride home, Ed complains about his brain boiling over and then falls fast asleep. March 18th, 1993. The Amish families were coming to the settlement for the wedding of a local Amish woman. Katie and Ed's family agreed that Ed should not attend the wedding and they would take turns watching him so everyone could attend. After a brief nap, Ed came down to the kitchen where his brother and Katie are sitting, and he starts shouting at them, saying, "Why are you trying to kill me? You're trying to poison the devil. That's what that is in me." And then he goes and lies down on a cot. Then he tells Katie he has some chores to finish and then he'll be back. While Katie's washing the dishes, she turns around and finds Ed standing over her. She's without saying a word, he punches her in the face and knocks her to the ground. She screams for her oldest son, Danny, who's 6 at the time, to go to Ed's brother, who lives about a mile and a half down the road, which he does. When Ed's brother arrives, he sees Katie lying motionless on the ground with Ed on top, continuously pounding his fist into her face. Danny asks Ed what you are doing. He stands up and says calmly that this is what she deserves, then stomps on her face, sits back on top of her, and continues to punch. Danny is terrified and leaves, which he still has 2 younger children in the house, and Danny still ran off. So he runs off to call 911. You guys got anything before I keep going? Because it's only going to get worse.
I mean, that's terrible, but I mean,
Yeah.
she did punch him first. That's I mean, that's
What are you doing?
That's good.
He's just
That's
waiting
good.
for his moment.
That's good. Good timing.
You started it, bitch.
oh my god, that was awful, but
That was good. She punched him first. Oh, that's good. Makes sense.
But I think instead of the person running away, they should have tried to stop him from continuing, because that had to be an awful sight. And then the kick, and then continuing. You know, there's kids in the house. Just again, we're talking about people with an 8th grade education who probably aren't doing the smartest type of reactions to things. But I would think that would be a natural reaction to like kind of grab him and pull him away from that type of action.
Yeah,
right.
Agreed.
Yeah. You got anything else, Sean? Or are you good? Are you ready to keep going?
No, I was thinking the same thing he was thinking. Like I don't like if you see somebody attacking somebody, especially if a dude's beating on a woman, like you try and stop it. You don't go, wow, this looks really bad, and then go a mile and a half down the road and call 911. Like, bro, you are 911 at that moment.
Yeah, no kidding. Right.
Ed proceeds to put his work boots on and stomp her head in. Ed grabs a steak knife and makes a 7-inch incision under Kate's lower abdomen and starts pulling out her lungs, kidneys, stomach, liver, spleen, bladder, uterus, and heart, stacking them next to her body. Ed then washes his hands, throws his Bible in the fire, and tells his kids to put on their coats so he could take them to Grandpa's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gee.
Yep. Yeah, it's rough.
So
let me read this next part here, and then we'll take a pause. And the last part that I have is basically his interrogation statements for wrapping this up. But the paramedics find Ed walking down the street with his kids. When he's asked what he's doing, he says, "Hey, I'm taking the kids to grandparents." Police, after being told what happened by Ed, or Ed's brother, approach Ed, and he admits immediately that I'm the bad man you were looking for. While they're cuffing him, a piece of flesh falls out of his coat and lands on one of the officer's shoes. And by 1 a.m. the next morning, Ed is in an interrogation room. So I want to pause here before I get into that. What are your guys' thoughts?
He snapped. He lost it completely. Whatever was affecting him up until this point, I think he gave into whatever he was thinking, and just reacted to that and just kind of lost it completely. That's what I got.
Mm-hmm. What you got, Sean?
Well, two things. One, according to evolution, she had it coming. And this is gonna be a wild swing.
Yeah.
But is this? I'm gonna ask a question. And I'm gonna give you what I think. Is this guy still alive or is he dead?
He ended up taking his life several years down the road.
Okay. Did they do an autopsy on him?
I didn't see anything about it.
Okay.
I know he is buried next to his wife.
Okay. I just wonder if he had syphilis.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't see any of the research I did.
Well, you were talking about the lesions on the brain and everything, or not the brain on fire and some different things that you've said with the crazy cakes and things like that. And I was just wondering if they did an autopsy and found the lesions on the brain and some of the resulting like psychosis could be related to that.
Wow, that didn't even like occur to me as an option. With that being said, what are you thinking?
With it, just that's like he was on this downward spiral, and molasses was not helping a thing. And it was
the toe pulling. The toe pulling was helping a lot.
So he needed some toe pulling. There's no fucking doubt about that. I mean, my God. But when he went to that one healer, and that's what a doctor should do. Even if they aren't a full-fledged doctor, can look at somebody and go, this guy needs he needs help. He needs help in a mental hospital, like an institution of that nature. They should have taken him. They should have done that, because I think there's so much stuff that was just misdiagnosed with this guy, and it was his wife, and because of how their community is and the doctor that they were going to, this guy should have been saved a long time ago. He was a guy that started out with just normal, I don't want to be a part of this community, and he should have just been able to go.
Yeah.
But that, coupled with everything else, led to this. How unfortunate. Okay, that's what I got.
No, I agree. I don't think that there was anything okay about what he did, and I think that, again, I believe he served 15 years, and he was out for like 3 years before he was found hung in a barn. He killed himself. He even had put like an apology note on one of the dusty barrels by where he had hung himself. But anyways, I didn't even put that in here because really this is the main point of what I was trying to get to, was what we've got to now. And then here is some of the excerpts from his interrogation. The recorder is turned on around 1 a.m. and an investigator begins speaking. Ed, do you know what a tape recorder is? Ed replies. I explained to you and I read you the forms that says you have the right to remain silent and whatnot. You remember that? Do you understand? Ed stared at his investigator momentarily before shaking his head no. He says, you do not. Ed says, you understand, or no, the reporter says, sorry, the investigator, this is confusing. You understand that the stuff that you say can be held against you about what went on today. Do you understand that? Ed says, how do you mean? He says, well, things that you say could be held against you in the court of law. You understand that? Ed responds with, yeah, and religion, law and religion. And you have the right to an attorney. Do you understand that? Let's see here. Yes. So you understand that? Yeah, but in our religion, we will not have done that. Ed said, we have to go by the law, and the law says I have to tell you this. Do you understand? No. You have the right to an attorney. You understand that? yeah, what I'm thinking, my mind is confused. I'm going to tell you that right now, but this reason we don't use the number, the social security number, because of the beat. The beat's somewhere, the computer in fact, we feel we can track our minds. Ed was obviously confused and not making any sense at all in the interrogation room.
Wow.
And this goes on for an hour, and then they basically take him to prison. But I wanted to put that a little bit in here because, and it goes on a little bit longer, but it's so confusing because Ed clearly doesn't understand half the stuff they're talking to him about, and what he does understand doesn't make sense. So he needed to be seen much earlier on.
Well, it's the I think the one friend that came over and realized that it was too much chemical in a confined space, and he needed to ventilate the place and dilute that stuff, and he didn't, and that's really probably was the source of his downfall in his condition and whatnot. Outside of him wanting to get out and do other things different than his community.
Right.
And then the wife was no help by not speaking up or talking to him, period.
She punched him in the face.
Yeah. I mean, that was her first communication, right? That was her first line of communication. She punched him in the face.
She's like, smile at me like that again.
Right. Yeah, so I'm like, okay, so all that built up and led to that, and then poor Ed, everything built up and led to what he did because of the lack of response or not the right treatment. And then when he did get the right treatment, he went back to the community, and they took him off of it, or he stopped using it.
Yeah,
with their support, and suggestion that he stop using it. But he had many opportunities for them to remedy his situation. But unfortunately, because of the background and how everything is set up, it just led to things evolving to where they were and what they did to where it ended up how it did. Sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It's and to think if he would have taken the route of, instead of marrying Katie and leaving the community, just how much different things could have turned out.
Yeah, he was very, very bright. He had a lot of creativity and skills. Probably could have did some good to the world.
What you got, Sean?
No, I think in the end, if they were to do an autopsy, syphilis or otherwise, from the chemicals and things, I would almost bet you they would find lesions on his brain. I would bet money on it. I think that there's also a possibility where he might have just been mentally unstable. I mean, if you look at the statistics that are applied to the lack of genetic diversity in that community, and as a matter of fact, I was just talking about this with somebody earlier this week. The actual statistics based around that could be an issue. And then, I mean, there's the far-flung thing over here where maybe he was possessed. Maybe the devil was fucking with him. I mean, it's, if we're all things being equal, why not? Right.
Yeah.
But there were so many things that were against this guy from the get-go. At one point, I thought you were going to tell us that he started sleeping with that guy that he was having the meetings in the car with. This thing's been so wacky, and that's why she punched him in the face, because he's sleeping with the Bible salesman.
I was curious about why they didn't question him about all the visits by this David guy. And the most I could come up with is, I mean, he's running a business. He's dealing with these local Englishmen for business purposes. So why question him? And he's not coming back saying, hey, I really believe this guy. He's coming back with, I need to leave. I gotta go. This isn't right. So he's tossed because he's not telling them what's going on, really, but he is.
Right.
Go ahead. I also think that he spent so much time in the machine shop to just get away. That was his way of,
Escape.
yeah, his escape. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think
Well, liking kids is not. I mean, that's fair. I mean, nobody likes kids anyway, so I get that. But I know I can tell you for a fact, Jukebox, actually, you're 100% correct, because when I was a purchasing manager for a company in the like 2016 to 2019 timeframe, and we used to have to go to an Amish sawmill and buy the live edge wood, like where they would cut the log, so it would have that live edge for mantles and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And we would go out and go to these sawmills and talk to these folks and deal with them directly. So 100%, I agree with that. That was probably very normal.
Yeah. And then they don't talk about it in their community because they're not really supposed to, so
Right.
it's business is business.
Mhm.
Yep. You sell to them, but that's about it.
Yep. There you
The only
go.
person he's confining is his wife, who's trying to get him help, but at the same time he's thinking that she's trying to kill him. So and she's torn because she's like, I want to get you help, but I don't know that I should be going down this whole, I shouldn't be going towards medical stuff until, hold on, go bark like a dog real quick for me, and then I'll change my mind.
Jeez.
I don't think she liked him, though. That's the thing.
And see, that's the thing. They were they felt pressure to get married. They were both on and off. They weren't really serious.
Mhm.
They felt pressure to get married, and that's why they got married. And then on top of that, which I didn't include in the information, is that she wanted like 2-digit number of kids because that's what you're supposed to be doing. And so she's here like, he's not sleeping with me. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So I imagine she probably did build a hatred towards him because she couldn't talk to anybody about it, and she was the one having to deal with it all face on.
She punched him in the damn face.
Punched her in the damn face.
Here's a quick story.
Okay.
Years ago, I was hanging out as one of my best friends. His name was Dusty, and we're hanging out at his place in Logansport, Indiana, and his fiance was there, and the fiance's mom was there. And it was like, now it was October, so they had little decorations all over the place, for Halloween. And you know how you can get those little rock hard pumpkins, to decorate your house with, like the gourds and shit. Yeah. So they're having an argument, and he and I are like really uncomfortable, but we're kind of laughing about it because it's really white trashy, like the way they're arguing. And all of a sudden, the mom looks at his fiance and she goes, "You're a bitch." Like, she calls her a bitch. Okay. His fiance reaches down to the coffee table, grabs one of those rock hard pumpkins and hucks it at her mom, hits her in the nose. The mom's nose explodes and she falls back. And I went, "Whoa, whoa." I said this out loud. I went, "Yo, 10 to a 2, you went from bitch to pumpkin. You missed a step." Like, the impression I get with this whole thing where she just decks him in the face is like, you missed some steps in between that, lady.
Oh man.
Yeah. I think, and I think a big part of why I picked this one wasn't because of how severe it was. I mean, it was bad. But we've done a lot of episodes on here, and they've all had some more twists to it that made it pretty gross. I picked it because I think there's something to be said here about religion, and I think that I have a lot of respect for people who can be committed to a religion, but you need to see the other side and kind of acknowledge that there's more out there than just your religion.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely, because when you think about it, people are born in different areas and different backgrounds, and they're born and raised, and that's all they know.
Mhm.
And if they don't get outside that, or if they're told not to go outside that, You know, that's the only thing they see, the only thing they know, and the only thing they practice, regardless of how, you know, even if they want to go outside of that just to see what's out there. Um, you know, it can be damaging if it's too extreme. You know, like anything else. But yeah, I just think that the what do you call it, the focus or the stress of the stress of the importance of that view can be quite extreme in most cases, and it's just almost like politics. You know, some people are so focused on being one way that they refuse to even consider the other way, right? So, and in those cases, even though it's supposed to be set up for the betterment of everyone, it kind of overlooks the importance of the betterment of everyone to focus on the one view that's being presented.
Right. What you got, Sean?
I think much like the extremism of woke culture, where it's this self-masturbatory benevolence where, you know, we have the moral high ground, it is the extreme on the other side where it's the ultra ideological side of things, where they have this benevolence of, you know, we have avoided this thing because we are so close to God. And then, you know, even though they live in a community that makes no show of things, right? Yet they have pride and will shun people if they do anything outside of this strict adherence to, you know what I'm saying? It's like there's still a level of pride and this level of anti-wokeism that is all, like far flung on the other side. You know, and they talk about, you know, this, well, you know, it's against, you know, it's like, or you could look at it this way, that God has allowed us to have advances in medical practices and things like this so that you can come in, get some ivermectin, get some amoxicillin, you know, God forbid, you know, some Mucinex, whatever the fuck, right? And the Lord has provided that too, to knock out the problems or whatever it is. But you are so wrapped up in you're trying to be pious and righteous and everything else and prove to the community that you are literally holier than thou to the rest of the world, that you will let this man suffer and die. And the best thing you can come the fuck up with is cracking toes and molasses. Go fuck yourself.
Right. Yeah. You know, and then that's some spam. It says best viewers on streamview.com.
I do want to highlight something that hasn't been pointed out. That's kind of what I do.
I don't know what you're talking about.
In the events that he was attacking her and pulling out her insides, I'm wondering what caused him to put part of that in his pocket, because as he didn't, it fell out of his pocket.
It just fell out, like when he was smashing her face, and maybe it just splattered on him and fell out.
Well, I thought you said it fell out of his pocket onto the.
It fell out of his coat. It fell out of his coat, but not necessarily his pocket. It just says coat.
Okay, but yeah, isn't that a little weird? Go ahead, Sean.
If you check the back of her license, she had an organ donor card filled out. He was just trying to like be the middleman. The cops. He opens up his coat like a guy on the streets of New York with watches.
I want to know if I took notes on this. Hold on. Let's see here.
Oh man,
this has not been a good. There was like a really brutal murder, and we're just like, oh my fucking god.
Hold on. Hold on. So there is a part of the investigation. Let's see here. Maybe you can explain to me why you felt that you had to remove Katie's brain and work your way from the brain down. He says, you know how we, the human being, are made? The investigator replied, from the top down. Ed says that's right. I had it in my mind that if I worked from the top down, Ed pauses and then says, I'm so lost, I don't know what to say. He basically says that he thought he could fix her by doing it from the top down.
No, that's a Ponzi scheme, Ed. Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah. No, there were so many things about the story that are so funny, but grotesquely terrible.
Yeah.
And I think it was a good story to pick for Singed Eye Sockets.
Agreed.
I loved this. I haven't laughed this hard through one of our stories, and yet felt so disgusted in myself and both of you at the same time.
She swung first.
She did.
That's the line of the night. Evolution's like, hey, let's be clear here, guys. All right, there was some misandry going on.
It was defense. It was defense.
Oh man.
Yeah, like very delayed gratification self-defense. That's for a year and a half ago, you bitch.
Oh man.
All right, guys. Well, it's always fun to wrap these up on some comical endings. Do you guys have anything else before we end the show?
Well, I'll say this. There was no getting away from her because they ended up being buried beside each other.
Yeah.
Regardless of how he felt or she felt or what happened, they ended up side by side.
Yeah.
So who knows who's smacking who at this point? But it's a sad story. I just think that people need to be more open to properly getting treated for whatever's being dealt with.
Right.
And even if it goes outside of their beliefs and customs, these things are out there to help.
Yeah.
They were designed to help, and sometimes they're being abused or overused by whoever. But in the best sense of the creation of these treatments, it's for people who need them in sickness or whatever they're dealing with. So we need to be wise and not stubborn to utilize the things that are out there for us in the best way possible to prevent things like that from happening.
Right. Yeah, I agree. There's so many religions out there now, and there's so many, like Sean said, woke people too who want to, retaliate against everything that, is reality. And I think that seeing that there were clear results with the medication. Okay, he was a zombie. I got it. But he wasn't walking around on all fours talking about a bunny through a window. So, okay, maybe this isn't the right medication, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that maybe they need to adjust some of your prescriptions. Right. But clearly this was working. So, and instead of that, their fear was like, no, get rid of it. It's bad. So I think that's part of that 8th grade mentality that they had, and their beliefs. So, but I agree with what both of you said. And I think that this is one of those things where there's definitely a learning lesson here. And I think until next time, everybody, we'll see you around.
Take care.